everyone. Welcome back to Daily English 10, your favorite English podcast for learning and growing. I'm here with my amazing co-host today.
Hey there. I'm feeling great and ready for today's conversation. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. I had this interesting thought yesterday. I was sitting quietly and wondering, why do some people completely transform their lives while others seem stuck in the same patterns?
Oh, I've wondered about that too. You see someone go from struggling to thriving, and you ask yourself, what's their secret? Is it just luck, or are they doing something different?
Exactly. And then I remembered when I first started learning English. At the beginning, everything felt so overwhelming. So many words to remember, so many grammar rules to follow. But gradually, things started clicking into place.
That's so relatable. When I began my English journey, I kept thinking if I just memorized more vocabulary, I'd become fluent. But it wasn't about knowing more words, it was about creating habits, shifting my perspective, and actually practicing what I learned.
And that's when I realized life works the same way. Major transformations don't happen in one day. It's not about making one giant decision. It's about the small choices we make consistently.
And that's precisely what we're exploring today, how to transform your life step by step.
Before we dive deeper, we want to share something valuable with you. We've prepared a helpful guide with practical tips to support your journey.
That's right. And throughout today's episode, we're introducing some useful vocabulary and expressions that you can use in everyday conversations.
We'll explore these words and phrases as we go, explaining their meanings and showing you how to use them naturally.
So stay with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have practical strategies to improve your life, plus new English vocabulary to express yourself better.
Thinking about what we just discussed, how life changes gradually, it makes me curious why so many people find it hard to make those changes initially.
That's an excellent question. Change sounds appealing, right? A new beginning, a fresh opportunity. But here's reality. Most people never actually follow through with those changes. Why? Because change requires effort.
Let's explore the common reasons people feel trapped.
First, there's fear of making mistakes. Many people wonder, what if I try and don't succeed? But imagine if you try and actually accomplish it? Every successful person has experienced setbacks. The key difference? They continued moving forward.
Absolutely. The second reason is unclear goals. Some people want better lives but don't know how to begin. They believe they need everything figured out before starting.
And then there's negative thinking, telling yourself things like, I'll never master this, or I'm not talented at languages. These thoughts create barriers before you even start.
Finally, one of the biggest obstacles, waiting to feel motivated. People say, I'll begin when I'm ready. But here's an important truth. Motivation appears after you start, not before.
That reminds me of a personal struggle I faced. I kept waiting for the ideal time to begin, but that perfect moment never arrived until I simply took the first action.
And once you did, things started progressing naturally, right?
Exactly, and I experienced something similar learning English. Initially, I thought, I'm not capable of this, but then I understood. The only way to improve was to actually begin practicing.
Right, and that leads us to our important lesson. Recognizing what's stopping you is the first step toward transformation. Once you identify these obstacles, you can begin removing them.
So now that we understand what prevents people from changing, the next important question is, how do we actually begin making progress?
That's where small daily improvements become crucial. People often believe they need dramatic overnight changes, but genuine transformation happens incrementally.
Have you heard about the concept of improving just a little bit each day?
Yes, if you get just 1% better every day, you'll be dramatically improved after a year. That's because small efforts accumulate over time, like compound interest.
Exactly. And this connects to the strength of habits. Small changes might not feel significant initially, but they reshape who you are gradually.
Right, like reading for just 10 minutes daily, practicing English for 5 minutes each day, or replacing negative thoughts with encouraging ones.
And I appreciate real examples. I know someone who became fluent in English simply by listening to podcasts consistently. They didn't begin with an elaborate study plan, just steady, small actions.
That's truly inspiring. The lesson here is small, consistent actions create big results over time. So if you're listening and wondering where to begin, just choose one small habit today.
Absolutely. And while taking action matters, there's something even more essential: our mindset. Because honestly, how we think about change determines everything.
Completely agree. There's what we call a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. With a growth mindset, you believe, I can develop and improve. But with a fixed mindset, you think, I'll never become good at this.
That's a massive difference. And another interesting thing, our brain focuses on what we train it to notice. Your brain filters information based on what you concentrate on.
So if you constantly tell yourself, I can't do this, your brain will search for evidence supporting that belief. But if you say, I am progressing every day, your brain will notice that improvement instead.
That's why reshaping your thinking is incredibly powerful. 3 excellent methods to do this are positive affirmations, mental imagery, and appreciation practice.
Right. Encouraging self-talk like, I am improving daily, helps transform our thoughts. Mental imagery, picturing yourself succeeding, trains your brain to believe it's achievable.
And don't overlook appreciation practice. When you focus on what's working well, you train your brain to recognize opportunities rather than problems.
That's the strength of mindset. It's not mysterious. It's about training your brain to support you, not limit you.
So true. Now that we've discussed the power of mindset, there's something else that stops people: waiting for the perfect time to start.
Yes, so many people think they need to be completely prepared before taking action. But here's reality: you will never feel totally ready.
Exactly. Confidence comes from progress, not before it. When I was learning English, I hesitated to start conversations because I felt unprepared. I kept thinking, what if I make errors?
That's so understandable. But when you finally took that first step, what occurred?
Well, once I started speaking, I discovered that making errors was actually part of learning. Each conversation, even with mistakes, increased my confidence. I wasn't flawless, but I was advancing.
And that's the secret. There's an idea I appreciate. Completed is better than flawless. Too many people postpone action because they want everything ideal. But actually, imperfect action is always superior to no action.
Right. If you wait for perfection, you'll never begin. Whether it's learning English, starting a new routine, or making a life change, just start. Small steps will create big improvements over time.
So here's a quick challenge for our listeners. Think of one thing you've been delaying. It could be practicing English, beginning an exercise routine, or even contacting someone for guidance.
And then just take one small step today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today.
Because action creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence.
That's right. Small, consistent actions over time produce massive transformation. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Make today the day you begin.
Speaking of taking action, have you noticed how much our environment influences our habits and choices? It's not just about what we do, but who and what surrounds us.
Absolutely. The people around you, the content you watch and read, and the mindset you maintain all significantly shape your life.
Yes, there's a well-known saying, you become like the people you spend the most time with. If you're surrounded by pessimistic, unmotivated people, staying motivated becomes difficult. But if you're around optimistic, ambitious individuals, their energy and habits will influence you.
That's incredibly true. So, how can we build an environment that encourages growth?
First, begin by following inspiring people, whether it's writers, speakers, or even online accounts. Exposing yourself to uplifting influences will gradually shift your mindset.
Absolutely. And participating in online learning groups is another excellent way to maintain motivation. There are countless communities for English learners, reading groups, and personal development. When you're part of a community that values improvement, you naturally start growing too.
And equally important as adding positive influences is reducing exposure to negativity. That can mean limiting time with people who constantly complain or cutting down on negative media that drains your energy.
That reminds me of my English learning experience. I felt stuck until I connected with an English learning community. Suddenly, I had people to practice with, share challenges, and celebrate achievements. That changed everything.
That's such a powerful example. The right environment creates momentum, making growth easier and more sustainable.
So here's something to consider. Who are the people you spend most of your time with? Are they helping you develop or are they limiting you? If they're not encouraging you to improve, it might be time to make changes.
Surround yourself with people and influences that motivate and support you.
So if we had to give our listeners one essential message from today's episode, what would it be?
I'd say this. You have more power over your life than you realize. Small changes, the right mindset, and a supportive environment can completely transform your life.
That's absolutely true. And remember, progress doesn't happen instantly, but every action you take brings you closer to your goals.
And let us know, what's one small change you're making today? We'd love to hear from you.
And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, and leave us feedback. Let's keep growing together.
Thank you so much for listening to Daily English 10.
See you next time. Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep believing in yourself.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.